Hey, what's going on everybody? Brandon Charleston here. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the complete walkthrough and kind of a segue and continuation of my first email regarding cold email and marketing strategy in terms of how you're going to build out your campaign before diving into any sort of tech stack like Clay or Smart Leads or Instantly, things like that. So this may be a little bit of a different video and maybe longer, just depends on how long it takes, but I'm going to demonstrate via a Miro board to really kind of help you visualize and put together all your thoughts in an effective strategy. And so one of the biggest things that I see all the time, especially cold emails, I'm sure you get the same, is you'll get some sort of cold email pitch, right? You may skim over it, maybe half a second, maybe a second if it catches your attention, right? It's very seldom that I actually get a really good marketing cold email to where it's actually going to catch my attention, right? Your experience may differ, but let me ask you a question. When's the last time you ever saw a Facebook ad or a Google ad to say, hey, just bumping this at the top of your feed, or hey, just a follow-up, right? So I get time and time again emails and follow-ups for all the things about, hey, just send this to the top of your inbox, you know, or any follow-up here. And so to me, it really speaks that there's a little bit of a lack, for better words, kind of a novice approach to marketing. Because when you're really trying to do sales and marketing and you're building out a complete strategy, it's never more important to really, especially through cold email, to really send good copy every single email that you do. Of course, they say fortune is in the follow-up. Well, that's to be said and that's to be debated for sure, because there's only so much follow-ups that you want to do. But at the same time, it is important to kind of nurture your clients and make sure that you're reminding them, keeping it top of mind, just because that's been proven time and time again about, you know, follow-up. But I want to show you a good, effective follow-up strategy that at least has worked well for me in all the years that I've been doing cold email, and just help you visualize that. So we'll just dive right in here. So I have a Miro board and a little bit of a continuation, like I mentioned, when it comes to you're sending your first email. And so if you haven't seen that email, basically I cover about usually, I mean, there's obviously an infinite ways of, you know, being able to send an email or any sort of medium on like a cold call about why you're reaching out to somebody, right? So think of it psychologically. As I mentioned in the previous video, there's usually some sort of trigger or instance in which that you're reaching out to somebody or breaking the silence between a cold scenario, right? In a warm scenario, really doesn't matter. I'm sure you can go to your kid or your spouse or one of your friends and just call them up, and they're not going to say, why are you calling me, right? They may, I don't know. Your experience might differ. But it's already a warm lead, and there's already trust established, right? So when let's say in the follow-up, they don't, on the first email that they don't respond, right? What are you going to send them next? What are you going to send them as a third or even maybe a fourth? And if you're going beyond 4, you know, you may want to restructure your entire strategy here. If you're sending more than 3 or 4, you know, to me, it's like I'm not going to say you're begging, but I think your approach could be definitely optimized. And so think of it again, like if you're looking in your Facebook feed or any LinkedIn feed, there's never a scenario where you're going to be reminded just as a follow-up. It's going to be some sort of continuation or expansion on which the product serves, or maybe a different feature or a case study or something like that. So the first thing you're doing, as always, is you're starting with your list, right? Your list is always going to be sourced from a number of different sources. Could be Zoom Info, could be Apollo, could be web scraping, could be an event, things like that. There are a number of different ways to really get your list, right? So you're going to want to get your list, obviously, however you source that, and then you're going to want to strategize. Okay, step 1 is I have my list, and then the step infinite, or at the end of the spectrum here, is I want to have a good email or good messaging, right? So we let's see here. Let's go ahead and just draw this out. So we have our list, and then we have emails. So email 1 is just going to be, I mean, I would say path of least resistance, but it's going to be the most important and biggest email, because you're establishing a first impression, right? So you want to essentially, I'm going to try this arrow thing here. Email 1. So you're going to want to do your first email, which is your pitch, right? So your pitch and your offer. So again, it comes down to your instance about maybe a job change. Maybe you saw a post that they made on LinkedIn. Maybe there was an event that either just occurred or is going to occur, right? Any sort of trigger or reason, like, hey, I saw that you registered for this webinar, or I saw that this webinar actually occurred. Maybe they didn't even go to it, but maybe you could just make them aware that it even happened. You're kind of breaking the silence here, right? So you're going to type out your email. And then I always recommend use maximum spin tax. If you're not familiar with that term, definitely check out my other videos. I cover that in terms of email marketing. But that's best for deliverability. And then obviously the personalization aspect, where you're doing fresh data scraping, things like that within platforms like Clay, to be able to make sure your data is not, I guess, old and aged, if you will, right? That's the biggest thing here is fresh, enriched data. So pitch offer. Okay, so let's say email 1, there's a pitch offer. Well, then we have email 2. Okay, so let's say they don't respond. We're going to have email 2 here. Email 2. Okay, so pitch offer is, let's see here, initial. So you're going to say your initial offer, right? And then let's say your offer does one of 3 things. And Eric Naroslavsky, great dude. Follow him if you don't already follow him. Posts a lot of great content about everything. And so there's only 3 reasons in B2B scenarios, and if you or anybody else find other ways that can expand on that or maybe uncover, let me and Eric know. But you're either going to save money, save time, or make more money, right? That's really the only 3 scenarios as far as how your offer can benefit somebody. And so if I pitch an offer and my approach is that they're going to save or make more money, we can help you achieve your top line or bottom line, whatever, right? And then obviously there's more to going into that email copy, but for the sake of this video, let's say email 1 doesn't work. Well, email 2, you're not going to necessarily do, hey, just following up for my email 1, because think of it psychologically and try to audit yourself of like, okay, this person sent me 1 email, I didn't reply, or it wasn't enough of an enticing offer for me to reply. Why would I just send the same email again, just saying, hey, did you see my email? Or just a follow-up here, or bumping this to your inbox. Think of like that white space that you're filling up, or the next opportunity to actually get in front of them again, right? You wouldn't necessarily tap them on the shoulder and just remind them. In fact, subconsciously, you're reminding them about the fact that they didn't respond in the first place, right? So I would flip the switch. Think of it more like a true marketing scenario and strategy that, okay, based on my first email, if that wasn't enough, perhaps I could send either a case study that expands on what I initially said. The other part too is you can say additional feature. Another scenario is you can basically showcase maybe some highlights about your feature on why it's going to benefit them even more that you couldn't otherwise say in the first email copy. And these are all things that can be leveraged via AI and, AI agent, things like that through Clay. And so these are all kind of things that we talk about, especially in my agency at Top of Funnel, where we go through different steps, and then through the entire table, we are going to do email 1, email 2. We're going to build on an entire campaign sequence to make sure that everything in every single email is an opportunity that could be used and leveraged to the maximum capacity. So if this one is pitch an offer, make more money, well, then this one should be expand on features. It could be something like that. Like, hey, our feature or our product or service does XYZ to help you save your top line or make more money top line or save money, whatever your approach is. This one is going to be, this is why, or maybe I'm going to dive deeper onto the benefits and really hit hard on personalization. Maybe they have something about their product or service that maybe in their tech stack that you could really just hammer it, you know what I mean? And if you don't know what I mean, I can give you a scenario. There could be usually a challenging niche, I would say, is like cybersecurity, for example. So if you're doing cybersecurity, a lot of times with those types of organizations, everybody knows cybersecurity, like you need it, but usually people aren't necessarily shopping for it unless you're either attacked or you're trying to get compliant or something of that regard. Usually it's not like, oh, I need this just because I'm interested, right? It's very seldom that would be the case. If your experience is different, let me know. But that's based on my experience working with other cybersecurity firms. But anyway, you may dive into that tech stack about, hey, we've seen these trends in the industry, or we've seen these, are you having the same issue or something like that, right? So expand on those. Expand on email 1 is the thing here that I would suggest you do. And now going into email 3, maybe you could change your approach. So if email 1 talks about making more money, say your top line, email 3 could actually be a little bit of a different approach, or I would say a different way to make your offer, but different package, right, of the same offer. And so it could be like save more time or save money, that kind of thing. So maybe there's another way you could help your prospect really leverage your product or service in a way that does exactly that. It's those 3 things, and you could pretty much formulate your offer to do each one of those 3 things usually, right? And so yeah, I would say email 3. And here's the other part too, is I don't know about you, but I get tons and tons of cold emails, and I couldn't even tell you, let alone this morning, let alone yesterday or even last week, of who it came from, or anything that really stuck out to me. So I guess ask yourself, should you make this a new email in the same, or should you make this a follow-up in the same thread to number 1, I'm saying number 1 or A, I feel like Home Alone now, but to number 1, expand on the previous said email, because if that's the case, then again, you're risking being reminded here that they didn't follow up on either 1 or 2 emails, but then now you're reminding me a 3rd time that I didn't respond, and so that could be that risk factor. Or you could actually just create a 3rd email in that same campaign, but just make it a new email, new subject line, and not actually in the same thread. But say with enough time, I'd say maybe 3-4 days, or give it a week, spread it out a little bit, to actually just send a 3rd email that's just separate and with a completely different pitch, and as far as like I mentioned earlier, and then just see if that works, right? Maybe you can add a little bit more creative on it, or maybe step up your offer just a nudge, and see if that's enough to get a response. Because that's the ultimate game here, is you're trying to get a response or some sort of next step, right? Think of it as any sort of scenario, even with marketing. These, in a marketing situation, when you send an email, and if you're actually getting eyes on it and it's landing in your inbox, that's a whole nother situation. But if you're getting eyes, that's an impression, right? So that's like buying ads and actually seeing it in a news feed. So they're getting eyeballs. So if you're getting eyeballs, you're just not getting a response, it could definitely be optimized. So email 3, you're going to want to change your approach, make it a net new email, or consider that if you're trying to just see what works best and test those things. So, and then going into email 4, there's that debate of, so let's finish out this this my board here. So email 3, we'll just call it net new email. New email, different approach compared to email 1. So again, we talk about pitch offer, make more money. This one's going to be save time or save money, whichever you fancy. So, all right. So with that, we'll just leave that as is. Okay. So now we have email 4. Now we're getting, I'm not going to say desperate, but obviously we want to have a good automated sequential campaign here. So what we're going to do, so email 4, some people do the dismissal or like the All right, let's just go for the kill. I would definitely take a look at your metrics to see, at scale, what your response rate is, positive or negative, but just the response rate, because at the end of the day, open rates is like a soft KPI. It's a good indicator, but it's not necessarily something you want to strategize or make decisions over. And then, so reply rate. If you're getting a ton of not interesteds, well, it just says that your offer is not good enough, or you need to do some revising, right? If you're getting a bunch of yeses, well, that's great. Everybody's happy, right? If you are getting hardly any responses, and I usually like to go in samples, it really just depends on the market, but you want to make sure you're collecting enough data. So if you're sending anything less than 1,000, I would say, this is just speculation here. Obviously, it could vary. There's a lot of different numbers here. But really, if you think about it from a data perspective, you want to have enough sends or enough volume in order to understand how the market is actually responding, because there's only going to be a very small percentage that, number one, has eyeballs, number two, is actually going to respond with a yes or no, right? So in a testing environment, especially go-to-market, you want to have enough data in order to make effective decisions. So if you're saying anything like 200, unless you're giving away free, Teslas or something like that, you're going to need some data in order to make decisions. So I would say email 4, treat it with a way that's not necessarily is like, well, if you're not going to respond to me, see you later, or this is my last email, or any sort of kind of snarky. It really just depends on how you want to go about it and how you want to kind of leave that lasting impression, to somebody either to consider you later because you really don't know what their situation is or time of day and things like that. But think about email 4 as a really big creative approach to see what it actually is going to take in order just to get a response, right? Sometimes you could do personalized video, which I've posted otherwise videos on, and that's obviously a debate as well, because things could change, algorithms can change. But in my experience, if I know the email is definitely delivered and I know that they've seen it or they just haven't responded and it's not bounced, well, the chances of video going to catch eyeballs, it might be worth it, right? Risk it for the biscuit, right? So that's the other part. And then I would just say, maybe a relevant meme, or maybe make an offer that is going to be like, okay, like, let's just get a response, like, I'm just looking for some feedback. People sometimes are always open to feedback of like, hey, just try to get some feedback here. Is this, should I talk to somebody else? And you can even name names with Clay, or are you the appropriate person? Or we're just trying to get feedback on a feature. And I'll give you a scenario here. So I have a client. We're testing new ways, like any other organization. You're testing new approaches and new ways, things like that. So one thing that a lot of people are usually open-minded to, there's a book called Exactly What to Say. If you haven't read that, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's called EWTS, Exactly What to Say. But one of the things in there is talking about just being open-minded. So if you say, like, would you be open to this? Or are you open to giving us some feedback to see if this product is even useful to you? Sometimes that kind of feedback is helpful, right? And so getting feedback or things like that, and it just may not be the right time. You could be selling bookkeeping. You could be selling stuff that people are not like, yeah, I want to buy tax services. You know what I mean? So, but it's all about getting creative with that. And so I would just say, really think about and try to strategize, okay, what is email 1? What does that look like? What's our approach? And then type out, through Google Sheets or something like that, so you can actually break down that email. Same with email 2. Really try to minimize. Don't just send, hey, just sending this to the top of your inbox, or hey, just following up here, because you're wasting that opportunity. Like, let's be real here. And you're also begging and you're reminding them that they didn't respond, right? Email 3, try to do like a net new email. Try to do a separate thread is maybe the subject line. is not great enough, maybe your offer could be changed a little bit or stepped up a notch. And then email 4, try to do really just, all right, look, like, can we get some feedback, something like that, and go, or are you the right person, or should I talk to somebody else? And like I said, with the platforms like Clay, you can nail a different scenario or different name, within the company of like, hey, should I talk to Bob, who's the CEO or CTO or something like that? So I would just say, look at that, and then going beyond email 4, really look at your strategy, because if any one of these emails, or if you're doing 5, 6, 7, which in my experience, way back used to work when deliverability was a lot different then, sending memes and all that kind of stuff. And I'm willing to debate that all day, because it has worked in the past, but right now it's not happening. Like your deliverability will get killed if you go too much, right? Try not to annoy people, right? The spam threshold is very fine. So I would just say, hopefully that helps. I would just say, like, really try to visualize your strategy and write out the campaign just in a draft form, even through Instantly or Smartlead. Just write out draft form and then break down those emails in like the actual sentences. Don't have AI just write you the whole email, because usually it's going to be a miss, and especially at scale, it's not as good copy as it could be. But try to make it in a way that different segments beyond the, hey, first name, I noticed you worked at your job. I noticed your job title is at XYZ LLC Inc. and Ltd. That kind of stuff obviously doesn't work well, and it shows that you're automating it. And so that's where Clay and automation, and that's where we can help you with that. So clean data and relevant, proper speaking English data, or whatever country that you live in, is going to be the most helpful, right? So write it down. That's part of your strategy. And if you need help with that, please reach out. Happy to chat, see if we can help you out there. And then, get all that out, and then segment what could be automated, what could be AI generated. And then also in your approach, from start to finish, the type of instances that you're using, your approach, and then ultimately your offer, because that's the biggest thing here is you use an email as a medium. So obviously there's the technical aspect of being able to deliver good copy from a tech perspective and cold email, but then there's also the message too, and you have to put just as much attention into the message, especially when you're doing a list, to make sure that you're getting the results that you want. So if anything, I hope this helps, and thanks for watching. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, I would really appreciate it, and just super grateful for you watching today and for taking the time to chill with me, and I'm drinking my coffee and all that fun stuff. So anyway, hope you have a great rest of your day, and thanks again.